Hi, this is Aptamer with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Thursday, the 22nd of February. Starting off with the FTSE 100, and here we've got the rising 50-day line. We've got the RSI still above neutral 50 at 54, and we're hoping that we'll be able to rally from this point without actually having to touch the 50-day line, which would be a bull signal. On the upside, 78.30 at the top of that rising August trend channel is the potential target over the next couple of weeks, etc. Worst case scenario is that we have to have another test of that 200-day line, 75.42, but it's difficult to deny that we're just in a random walk between 7,300 and 7,800 as we have been since the spring of last year. Moving on to the DAX, which is actually a proper index and a proper stock market perhaps. Here you can see that we've started the day on a strong footing, gapping to the upside. That's the second gap higher in recent days. The first one was unfilled, and hopefully the second one will be too, and that is normally a very strong signal. Suggests that we could at least hit that September resistance line projection at 17,700 over the next couple of weeks. Best case scenario at the moment would be that we would hit the top of that rising October trend channel, 18,000 plus, by the end of next month. On the downside, hoping that the 50-day line, 16,800 currently, would be the low on any rug pull. Moving on to the Dow, which is still in decent form, seems to be bouncing at the floor of that unbelievably steep rising trend channel from October. That's around the 38,300 level. We're allowing for a test of the 50-day line, 37,800, as a worst case scenario. Otherwise, looking for a break of 39,000, or the recent highs just under 39,000, to take us up to 40,000 plus by the end of next month, which would obviously be quite a coup. On to Bitcoin, and here it's all about trying to break that 53,000 level, the top of that rising August trend channel. We are still consolidating above the old January resistance of 49,000, which is a plus. Worst case on the downside, probably the 50-day line around 45,000, although probably 46 would do the trick. And if we break 53,000, it's up to 60,000 by the end of next month. Looked at Ethereum on a request yesterday, maybe worth having another second look at it anyway, for the near term. Here we've got resistance there just over 3,000, 3,070. Above that, looking for 3,300 by the end of next month, if all goes well. Ideally, we stay on the right side of 2,800 in the meantime. On to gold, and here you can see that we were sort of dithering around the 50-day line, 2040. Above that, really, the big break would be a break of 2060, which is that December resistance line projection. Top of the channel there from back in March last year is 2180, and that's what the bulls will be licking their lips for in terms of a target by the end of next month. RSI on the wrong side of 50, so that does imply there is still a chance of another test of 2,000, or maybe just down to the 200-day moving average at 1982 before we have any big break to the upside. I just want to have a quick look at pound dollar, which I haven't looked at for ages, largely because it's so boring. Here we've got the 200-day line rising mildly, and I suppose the big thing here now would be that we can have a decent end-of-day close above the 50-day moving average at 126.90 to give us a move up to $1.28 over the near term. RSI is 56, so it does suggest that 128 is the near-term target for end of February or early March. Moving on to the stocks, and starting off with Argo Blockchain, which, even though we have Bitcoin at the dizzy heights, is still consolidating, let's say. Probably should be a little bit higher than it is in the range, but we gapped up earlier in the month, and we could be treated to an end-of-day close above a rising 50-day moving average. Let's call that around 18.4 pence. If we could do that, then hopefully over the next week or two we could get back up to retesting 23 pence. Ideally, sometime during March, we'll fill that gap at 27 pence, the gap down that we had back in January. Upside valid while we hold above the floor of the gap there at 15 1/4. Moving on to a stock which I don't really look at very much, and I don't think anybody else does either, but here we've got Aptamer, and interestingly enough, we've got a sort of a U-shaped turnaround here. There is a line of resistance there from January around 0.8, so we need an end-of-day close above that to give us a potential gap fill up to 0.9, and then if we are really lucky by the end of next month, up to a penny at the 50-day moving average. But it is early days yet, and we have to stay above recent neckline resistance at 0.69 pence. Next up is Bushveld Minerals, and here tentative signs of a turnaround. I want to see that 50-day moving average broken at 1.75 pence. If we can get through that, then it could be up to the 200-day moving average at 2.3 pence by the end of next month. The last time, in fact, you can see on the way down, the shares have peaked at the 200-day line. So there's another chance of history repeating itself. The reason for the inclusion is that we had an unfilled gap to the upside earlier in the month, and we have held the top of that gap. So that does suggest that this is a positive consolidation, along with the way that the RSI is at 54 and is above neutral 50. On to Bezant, which has obviously been in the wars of late, in fact, for quite some time, but we've got this, what I call a sideways shuffle at the 50-day moving average. Above that at 0.023, we could head up towards 0.35 by the end of next month, but obviously it is early days on that situation. Another stock which is relatively rare for the Bulletin Board heroes is DotDigital, and here we've got this rising formation. It could be a rising wedge. We've got a rising formation, and we've got the shares well above now the rising 50-day moving average at 98 pence, so that if we close above that today, it should be a decent buy signal to take us up to £1.15 maybe by the end of next month. Ideally, we stay above 95 pence in that uptrend line from back in October. The stock which has delivered in terms of the upside has been Fiske, with the unfilled gap to the upside off the low, which is bear trap gap reversal, which is one of our favorite signals, right, largely because it tends to work. Current situation is that we followed through on that gap update at 65 pence, and we're looking for the shares to retest the old 2021 resistance at 90 pence over the next few sessions. But this looks like a strong turnaround with both the 50 and 200-day lines rising, and that means that we're in the run-up to a golden cross. Onto Galileo, which looks like it's finally going to be able to have the big breakout that we've been waiting for months here. Here we've got that line of resistance there from the end of 2022. That's around the 1.25 pence area. Above 1.25 on an end of day or a weekly close basis, looking for 1.75 pence, backed by that uptrend line in the RSI window. Ideally, we stay above the 50-day line at 1.1 pence in the meantime. Onto Hydran Utopia, which is shaping up very nicely at the moment. We've finally got that turnaround. We've got a U-shaped bull flag breakout, which tends to be a very strong signal through 6.8 pence. Above that, we're looking for at least 9 pence on this situation, perhaps. In fact, much more, on the basis that this has been an extended turnaround. The upper parallel of the first target there is up to 13 pence, which would be an optimistic target by the end of next month, but not that optimistic given the way that looks as though the 200-day line is starting to flatten out and is just about to rise. That means that we could be in the run-up to a golden cross next month. Harvest Minerals is next, and didn't think I'd be looking at this stock anytime soon, but here it is. We've got the shares breaking out of a little consolidation above a rising 50-day line, so it's a sideways shuffle. 1.4 pence the initial target, and then up to filling the gap there at 2.1 pence, the gap from back in September by the end of next month. Upside early valid though, while we remain above recent neckline resistance at a penny. On to Power Metal, which seems to be shaping up quite well in terms of having found support at old resistance around the 0.9 pence area, and finding and rebounding above the 50-day moving average there at 0.83, above that 50-day line. We're looking for a retest of 1.25 pence, the peak at the beginning of the month by the end of next month or sooner. Primorous is next. I think I'm the only person who actually looks at this company, but here we were already on alert with the shares in a bull flag, and after a little jiggery pokery, we've seen the shares progress within a rising trend channel with a big gap to the upside. Best case scenario target here up to 8 pence or 8.5 pence by the end of next month, while we remain above the gap and the 4 pence area, which is the floor of the channel. We've already had a golden cross between the 50 and 200-day moving averages. On to Powerhouse Energy, which has had one of the better RNSs of the day. We were looking for progress within a rising trend channel from back in October, and as you can see, the shares hit that line right on the nose at 0.54, which is always very pleasing. I'd like to see an end of day close above the 200-day line at 0.46, and that would then mean we could then start targeting that gap down from back in August at 0.75 on any end of day close above 0.54. On to one Spatial, which is also looking rather good at the moment. Here you can see that we've had gaps to the upside. We've had a golden cross at the beginning of the month, so this looks like it's in play in a good way. There's a wide rising trend channel from I think 2020, pandemic times. Top of that channel is 77 pence, and we're looking for that as soon as the end of this month, given the golden cross and given the big breakout through the main resistance there in the upper 50s. Finishing off with Upland, which created quite a lot of excitement back in October. Current position is that we're in a rising trend channel from back in August. Top of that channel is at 5 pence, 5.1 pence, and we're looking for that while we remain on the right side of the floor of the channel, just above 3 pence, to be hit by maybe the end of March, beginning of April. If you're cautious, you wait for a proper end of day close above the 50-day line, 3.6 pence, but the bounce off the floor of the channel is quite encouraging. That's it from me today. More updates tomorrow.